false accusations are common, or that women often lie about being assaulted. Is this true, everyone?
There's no data that reflects that as being true. And there's also no other violent act in which that rebuttal is brought up. We don't hear, people lie about getting mugged all the time. We don't hear that. We don't hear people lying about someone breaking into their house. We don't hear that kind of stuff.
Yeah, where there's a high-profile instance of it and people are sort of bringing that rebuttal of like false reports, like they're just doing this to get their name out there, which is so silly that it's even a misconception.
Yeah, for example, like you see it with sports stars and victim survivors are like trolled through the media for, wanting notoriety or wanting money or whatever it might be. But I think the reason why that happens is a lack of empathy for the experience of the victim survivor.
Yeah, it's not a get-rich-quick scheme.
No.
It's...
And that is now indelibly tied to your identity in the public eye. Like, no one would do that for clout,
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's a stat that says you're 0.1% likely to be convicted of sexual assault. So you are extremely unlikely to even be convicted when you have done the crime, let alone be falsely accused and convicted. You're more likely to be struck by lightning. Literally, there's a stat on that. So it's so unlikely. Obviously, having a lack of empathy is one reason where that misconception comes from. Where do we think the fear comes from outside of the lack of empathy?
If this narrative is prevalent about false accusations, then I could totally see why a young man would feel like the odds are stacked against him and feel like that he could do everything right and still have his life ruined in this way. It would be a tempting mindset to fall into in those moments of feeling overwhelmed or feeling like you're being blamed for societal issues.
Sexual violence is obviously a terrible thing to be accused of, and as you're more exposed to the spectrum of what is considered sexual violence and realise, that fear could be an admission that I might have done one of these things. And so then you reject it.
Yeah.
And then if you reject it, and like you said, the patriarchy ensues and that system continues, and you don't have to have any accountability.
All of this requires us to look at ourselves. And I think that can be really tough work. Like that can be really scary.
It's uncomfortable.
I think that curiosity of just looking at your thought patterns and actions and saying, all right, hold on, why am I thinking this way? What am I doing? Do I want to be doing this? Yes, no. If not, then what can I do instead?
Get confident with consent and relationships at teachusconsent.com.